Okay. Okay, guys, this is the first part for, as far as I know, the last volume. Someone has said that there's a part 6, but I don't know, to be honest. But we'll see. Okay, prologue. Though normally free of anything else, the hall containing Alexandria's foundation now housed rows of boxes packed with magic tools and rejuvenation potions. The ancient spell about to be revived would cover the entire duchy. A dish-shaped rainbow facestone sat waiting with one of Wehrman's white branches stabbed into it. Let us begin, Ferdinand called. Rosemary put both hands on the dish. Oh, it was a dish-shaped rainbow facestone. Okay, never mind. It was empty at first, but it slowly came to resemble a white mirror as she channeled mana into it. Wehrman's white branch took on a rainbow hue, and a pillar of omni-elemental light shot toward the ceiling. From what Ferdinand could tell, it was being sucked into the face stones of each element orbiting the foundation. Ferdinand, Rosemine said, He turned his attention from the face stones to the water mirror sitting on the ground. Its surface traced the creation of the magic circle, showing first a group of nobles waving their lit staffs above their heads, then the brightly lit nobles' quarter, then the lower city. It must be true, then. Spells cast here take shape in the Mana Replenishment Hall. Indeed, their circle, and any other spells the Ob cast in the Foundation's Hall, grew from the castle outward. It explained why nobles of the past had never suspected that the Foundation was actually located inside the temple. They would be told the truth during the Archduke Conference, and one could only imagine the chaos that would ensue. Yeah, as long as they don't know where about the key to the Bible, the key to the Bible being the key of the Foundation. Actually, since it should just be I'm assuming the Archdukes knowing this information, it should be fine. Ferdinand drew his eyebrows into a frown. For all the troubles in the horizon, they had to focus on the present. Rosemary needed to empty her mana reserve, else Ferdinand would not be able to die her, and she would ultimately succumb to the divine power within her. We have come too far to fail now. Rosemary no longer had a home in Ehrenfest, but it did not matter. She had obtained an entire duchy that she could shape as she pleased. Ferdinand, meanwhile, had taken advantage of a royal decree to go from being someone merely close to her to being her true family. Yeah, if only she could remember all her memories, and she would still remember why she did what she did, why she had gone and saved him, because that's part of the reason, because she thinks of him truly as family. I will not allow the gods to toy with our lives and end our dreams before they can come true. Focus, the circle is not yet complete. They had managed to activate their circle, a mere imitation of the original used at the Royal Academy, but Ferdinand remained as tense as ever. Only time would tell whether it would actually reach completion. The basis of their plan was sound, but they had not been able to practice. This was their only chance, and the risk of everything coming apart at the seams was far from small. Ferdinand worried that Rosemary might collapse before she could expel the divine power rampaging through her. Maybe she would panic and drink a rejuvenation potion, and the human mana it contained would cause the ancient spell to fail. There's so much that could go wrong. If she can endure the starvation, then Rosemary should manage to expand the last of her mana, but even that is no guarantee. One of the knights started praying, Rosemary exclaimed. I guess Hartmut's lesson went a little too far. Ferdinand took a moment to observe the girl peering into the water mirror. Though she remarked enthusiastically on the state of the border gates, he would not be deceived. She was a more capable noble than before, and now knew exactly how to disguise her true emotions. He tried not to remember her voice or the look in her eyes when she had said she was too afraid of her mana regenerating to sleep. Their plan would put Rosemary on the very brink of death. Even the slightest hiccup could mean her demise. Ferdinand continued to watch her while checking for the umpteenth time that everything he needed was within reach. I cannot talk. The gods truly are despicable. A deep scowl creased his brow as he remembered the spiteful goddess who had put Rosemary in these dire circumstances to begin with. The transference ceremony had already begun. When Mestinora once again descended. Ferdinand was glaring at her with as much hate as he could muster, and she at him. Tell me what the gods did to Rosemary, how to fully remove the sway of her divine power, and what means other than channeling mana into her will restore her lost memories. In return, I will give Ewerman the antidote for the poison keeping him frozen. To punctuate his ultimatum, Ferdinand showed not only the antidote, but also the silver tubes and daggers still on his person. He refused to cower even in the face of a goddess, and would not hesitate to threaten her or continue to attack a wereman. Then have Eglantine administer the antidote while I explain. Determined not to let any more harm come to a wereman, but let Mestanora relinquish the information her adversary desired. She was much easier to persuade than the former god, who resembled a brick wall when it came to communication. A wereman had thought it best for Rosemine to become the country's next Zent. She had reached the foundation on her own, and then supplied it with mana, so he concluded that she was as good a candidate as any. Problems had arisen only when a wereman sought to welcome Mestanora back into Rosemine's body. The young bookworm's charms had prevented the goddess's return, so the gods had intervened, assaulting Rosemine with blessings in an attempt to overcome them. But alas, the charms had not activated, and their wearer had suddenly received more divine power than a human body could endure. Only by allowing Mestanora's descent had she managed to survive. Gods, what have you done? Ferdinand muttered. The explanation was clear, but completely unacceptable. Events he had thought existed only in myths had somehow bled through into the real world. Not even I predicted this. Ferdinand saw the divine light seeping through Rosemine's body and considered it repulsive. Most attendees of the transference ceremony had gushed that she was blessed and that they envied her, but he wanted nothing more than to free her from Mestanora's sick clutches. Legends say that rash blessings from the gods can sometimes be a curse, Ferdinand mused, thinking it would apply to Rosemine. Is it because the gods did not intend for this outcome that I am here? Mestanora replied. I can borrow the divine instruments of the primary and the supreme gods. Nobody else can manage the powers clashing within her. Ferdinand recalled the legends recorded in the temple and the Royal Academy. The gods had given Mestanora access to every one of the divine instruments as protection against her father, Abeglabe, who wished to see her dead. Why? Surely, if he's as protective of his wife Geduld as he is, surely he would feel the same way about his own daughter, you know? A goddess who, despite being a wind subordinate, is in tune with all elements. How troublesome. Ferdinand was overcome with misery. The legend spoke of ways to reverse curses brought about by the gods, but those were only so much he could do against as capable of an opponent as Mestanora. As for erasing the divine power within her, the goddess continued, not much can be done while it remains so dominant. One can make her compatible with it by dyeing her body with the power of a stronger god, thereby erasing her pain, but she would cease to be mortal as a result. Yeah, we don't want that. Ferdinand swallowed the urge to snap at Mestanora, and instead adopted the most genuine-seeming smile he could muster. He wanted to free Rosemine from the god's blessing, not push her closer to becoming a fully divine being. Harmon would blow a gasket if that were to happen. I wish to return her mana to that of a mortal, he explained. If you can almost fully drain her, then I expect you could re-dye her with human mana. It would not be her original mana. Damn it. But it would produce the desired result. You shouldn't have any trouble dyeing her, I assume. Under normal circumstances, nobles only ever dyed or poured mana into their partners or members of their family. Dyeing a complete stranger was an unpleasant and outright painful experience widely considered taboo. So any regular noble would probably have balked at the goddess' proposal. Ferdinand, however, was no regular noble. He had grown up a face stone in the Adulterous Sevilla and was not averse to regulating his mana with potions and the like. Deep down, he believed that all people were fated to become face stones, and that exchanges of mana were only natural. I am not opposed to the act of re-dyeing Rosemine. I mean, he did it before with the synchronization potion. I don't know if he did it on purpose when that happened, or if that was just completely an accident, but we'll find out. Maybe we'll find out. Rather, he took issue with draining her mana. It was a painful process, as he had come to learn when he was stuck at Aaron's Box Mana Replenishment Hall. He did not want to put Rosemine through the same torture. Draining her mana will put her at risk of death, Ferdinand said. Are there any other methods we could use? If you would rather not re-dye her at all at once, then you will need to wait for her original mana to return. But isn't that going to hurt her, though? Is that to say the divinely dyed mana will disappear with use? Of course not. It will fade somewhat, but regenerate alongside her normal mana. The pain she feels will persist until the last of the god's power disappears. And it will not be a short process by any means. Judging by how she has responded so far, I do not believe mine would survive. I would advise you to re-dye her instead. Ferdinand was forced to agree. The gods' elements were clashing with each other and causing all sorts of damage to Rosemine's body. There was no time to waste. Furthermore, Rosemine is a victim of the devouring. To create his replica Grutushite, Ferdinand had needed a portion of Rosemine's wisdom. Only then had he learned that those with the devouring were unusually vulnerable to other people's mana. He had already dyed her mana organ when her clumps had put her on the verge of death, and if the gods' mana had an even greater sway on her than that of mere mortals, it was a chance it would not fade as one would normally expect. You have told me how to remove the divinity from Rosemine's mana, Ferdinand said. Now tell me how I can restore her severed memories. There are commoners among those she has forgotten. How can she even ever remember them when they cannot channel mana into her, because commoners don't have hardly any mana at all, if any at all? Mestinora crossed her arms and let her eyes wander the space around them. Was she racking her brain or simply looking for a way to evade the question? A long moment passed before she eventually replied. If you know someone who shares those particular memories, they could channel their mana into her. It might repair some of the connections that were severed, but this is the problem here. Commoners have little to no mana at all. That's why blue priests can have kids with shrine maidens, because they have so little mana in comparison. Blue priests have so little mana in comparison that they can have kids with commoners. Gods could not lie, or they dared not to, for the punishment was truly severe. Nonetheless, Ferdinand could guess from Mestinora's body language that she had omitted something important. For her to have even humored the idea, there must have existed a way for Rosemine to remember the commoners who had once meant so much to her. It must not be something she favors. I wonder what it is. Ferdinand was unsure whether he had the time to pinpoint whatever method the goddess was trying to hide from him, or whether he was even capable of working it out on his own. But he had already made his resolve. He would do everything in his power to help restore Rosemine's memories. Rosemine's experiences in the lower city had shaped her into the woman she once was. Now that she no longer remembered them, her love for her family and excitement for the future seemed to have faded. She was much colder than before, and at times came across as completely unattached. Though she claims I am important to her, she lacks the overwhelming enthusiasm I used to find so overbearing. Her lack of compassion had come about not naturally, but because she no longer had access to her core memories. Ferdinand resented the gods for what they have done to her and would never forgive them. I will restore her memories. That is quite the frown, Quinta, Mestinora said with a cruel chuckle. You need only make her supply the foundation. She can survive without her memories, but will meet an untimely demise if you do not re-dye her mana. Supplying the foundation would allow Rosemine to expand a lot of mana over a short period, but Ferdinand was unconvinced. She did not intend to become the Zent, and it was inconceivable that Eglantine would manage to die over divine mana and reduce the country's withdraw the country's borders in time for the upcoming Archduke Conference. Not that Mestinora cared to listen. I separated the divine mana inside mine into its various elements, but this is only a temporary solution. As her mana regenerates, the divine power will grow stronger and her pain will intensify. Be quick to expand it when she returns. The goddess then drifted through the air and came to rest above Overlord's shoulder. Eglantine might have succeeded in applying the antidote because the former god was able to move his arms again. To save Rosemine's life, I suppose a compromise must be made. Mestinora intended to have Rosemine fill the country's foundation by any means necessary. Ferdinand did not know how urgently she expected them to act, but he would not waste another moment. He started piecing together a rough schedule while Eglantine made a vow to the goddess of light and the other gods. In an unfortunate twist, supplying the foundation was not enough to fully expand the divine power within Rosemine. It made matters worse that the divine power regenerated at a rapid pace. It makes no sense. Does this mean Mestinora lied to me? Or was this an outcome that not even she managed to predict? I would say the possibility of the second one. Because you said that the gods can't lie, or else their punishment will be very, very bad. Ferdinand considered re-dyeing Rosemine as she was, but the rebound was far more intense than before. He took her hand and tried to channel mana into her, only to be blown back immediately. So intense was the rejection that Rosemine did not even notice his attempt. She really would need to be drained almost entirely before he could re-dye her with mortal mana. But will that be enough? Unable to fully cast aside his doubts, Ferdinand made arrangements for Rosemine to drain her mana and use the divine instruments to supply her new duchy. She returned the barren land to its former splendor, and the commoners who saw her rejoiced, further cementing her reputation as a divine avatar of a goddess. There were welcome changes, but they wore Rosemine down and did not drain as much of her mana as anticipated. She withered more by the day. I poured my mana into the other divine instruments, right? Rosemine asked. Anyone can use them as long as they know the prayers. We could get the others to drain the instruments for me, then I could simply refill them. A most worrying development. Rosemine only thought so logically when she was backed into a corner. Convinced that her mana had changed enough to make further testing worthwhile, Ferdinand gave her a drop of synchronization potion, only for her to protest the taste. She claimed it was awfully bitter and stung her tongue, a far cry from the sweetness she had remarked on before. She would not be able to drink liquid mana when even a simple synchronization potion went down like poison. Ferdinand could only conclude that she was far from being out of mana. Is her stamina going to last long enough for me to drain her completely? Or for us to drain her completely? Rosemine's mana would regenerate, causing her divine power to grow and putting her through more pain, even if she did nothing but sleep. She had started resting only in short bursts as a result and was now reluctant to climb into bed. A report from Lazetta had explained that Rosemine was hungry but could not eat. Assuming the former was the result of her largely depleted mana, Rosemine would soon endure greater agony than she could ever imagine. We have even less time than I expected. As tensions rose, Rosemine's retinue started draining the divine instruments so that their lady could devote her full attention to replenishing them. It worked well, and she eventually lost enough mana to sense Ferdinand. Wow. But her divine power is so much too great, I cannot sense her mana at all. On the bright side, Rosemine's divine power soon dropped enough that she could stomach the synchronization potion. Holding on to that faint hope, Ferdinand concluded he might soon be able to dye her mana. Returning his attention to the present, Ferdinand realized that his hopes would soon be dashed. He kept a careful eye on Rosemine as she responded to his observation. That sounds rough. I don't want him to be miserable, but I plan to devote all my time to overseeing my library and reading books. All my time not spent carrying out my duties, of course. She spoke as casually as always, but she looked pale as a sheet. Having sensed the gravity of their situation, Ferdinand went to grab a rejuvenation potion. We're nearly done, Rosemine said, the intensity in her golden eyes screaming that she refused to restore her mana. Ferdinand put his arm back down, his teeth gritted. No matter how much he thought she needed it, he could not force her to drink it against her will. The water mirror went from showing Friendbeltag's border gate to the one near Ehrenfest. Ferdinand made a few pleasant remarks in an attempt to lighten Rosemine's mood, but she could no longer speak. Only a few labored gasps came out in response. She had stopped trying to disguise her anguish and clung to the face-stone plate with trembling hands. Don't worry, Ferdinand discerned among the wheezing. Just a little longer, Rosemine, he said, trying to encourage her, but the journey from their most recent border gate back to the castle was anything but short. He glared impatiently at the dark ocean that appeared in the water mirror. Is the circle not yet completed? How much longer will this take? Her head started to droop. Her strength was leaving her, and she found it unusually hard to keep touching the plate. Ferdinand wrapped an arm around her and rested a hand atop hers, keeping them pressed against the face stone. Rosemine, lean against me if you must. Just keep your hands on the plate. Ferdinand continued to support Rosemine, who was now only partially conscious, and channel mana into her hands. He noticed some rebound, but she did not react. Not long now. No sooner had she slumped over completely out of stamina than the castle came into view. The magic circle was complete. Ferdinand channeled more mana to her hands and wasted no time chanting a prayer. O goddess of water flew train, bringer of healing and change. O 12 goddesses are served by her side. Please hear my prayer and lend me your divine strength. In the same breath, he tried to sit Rosemine upright so that she could drink. He reached for a nearby utensil that already contained synchronization potion and continued to pray. Dye the mortal realm your divine color. In no time at all, the water mirror turned a green hue. The large-scale spell was complete, but it was too early to celebrate. Ferdinand wrenched open Rosemine's mouth and put the utensil in place, allowing the synchronization potion to pour down her throat. His liquid mana would come next. Dyeing her now would prevent the divine power from regenerating with her regular mana. Be calm, you have done this countless times before. His every movement served a purpose as he gave Rosemine a string of potions to consume. He seemed entirely calm. As her head doctor, he was used to medicating her while she slept, but fought an intense battle in his mind. There was far too much at stake. Time was of the essence. Ferdinand needed to dye Rosemine before she died of mana starvation, or the divine power within her started to return. It was much easier to dye her while her mana was low, but tarrying too long before administrating a rejuvenation potion would mean her demise. Hurry, do not pause. Ferdinand squeezed Rosemine's hand and channeled more mana into her. He found it hard to breathe, and the pounding in his chest grew so loud he could no longer measure her heartbeat. The synchronization potion must have been working because her resistance to his mana continued to weaken. He considered the time to be right and poured a rejuvenation potion down Rosemine's throat. Now we need to only wait for her to regain consciousness. Ferdinand waited, but nothing happened. Even when Rosemine returned to having a healthy amount of mana, she remained slumped against him. Cold sweat ran down his back. His throat became so dry that it hurt to swallow. Rosemine! Wake up! Rosemine! Oh boy, he's starting to get worried. Ferdinand increased the amount of mana he was pouring into her. He forced it through her system to prevent any death-induced clumps from forming. There was enough resistance to cause her pain, or at least discomfort, but she remained completely motionless. Each breath she took seemed more feeble than the last, and when Ferdinand tried to check her pulse, he found it was concerningly weak. Were we too late? They had done absolutely everything they could to remove the divine power, putting Rosemine's life at risk. Had that still not been enough? Should he have administered the rejuvenation potion sooner? It might have made more sense to force upon her the same kind of stamina rejuvenation potion he had tossed to Gervasio. Despair and regret dug their sharp talons into his mind as his thoughts ran rampant. But it was not over yet. Ferdinand put a hand to Rosemine's mouth, checking her breathing once again. Then he looked up. How many times had he been brought to the verge of death? How many times had he thought his life was over? He had sincerely believed when he was trapped in Aaron's box bin or replenishment hall that he was going to die. Even then, when he had completely lost the will to fight, Rosemine had pressed on. She had done everything in her power to save him, and it stood to reason that he should do exactly the same for her. He would resort to anything, even dubious records from ancient, untrustworthy sources to wake her up again. The gods can have their curse back. Ferdinand made a step into a pen and continued to gaze upward. O gods, hear my cry. The goddess of wisdom deceived me. Rosemine's divine power did not fade, even after she supplied Jürgen Schmidt's foundation. Is this the outcome you desire? Mixing in words of resentment, Ferdinand took the most wonderful magic circle he had ever seen and drew it mirrored. It was a cruel corruption of the circle that existed only to bless others. The same... Oh, is he making a curse? Oh, now I'm interested and yet scared at the same time. The same one Rosemine had once used on him. Rosemine has prayed to the gods more than anyone else. She, of all people, deserves to live. If you must curse someone, then curse me instead. Oh. I don't think she would want to hear you say that, Ferdinand. I shall return the blessings I received. Take back the torment you have thrust upon her, and grant her the blessings she deserves. According to the ancient records, to break the curse of a god, one needed the blessing of a god of a superior rank. So who? Who was the one who gave the curse? And who would you have to get to reverse that? Oh! Wait, Shitsaria? Is he going to pray to Shitsaria? Because the Mestanoris is a subordinate. So would you have to pray to Shitsaria or any of the other primaries? Or would it matter? To protest a curse from a subordinate, one prayed to a primary. To protest a curse from the Eternal Five, one prayed to the Supreme Gods. Rosemine's curse had many sources, so Ferdinand prayed to all elements. To dispel a divine curse, the victim also needed a blessing they had granted another to be freely returned to them. Wait, is he returning the blessing that he got from Rosemine? Is that what he's doing? Yeah, this is exactly what he's doing. Ferdinand would return that which Rosemine had given him, though it would qualify only as much as he had received. I shall use the blessing Rosemine gave me for her sake. O mighty king and queen of the endless skies, O mighty eternal five who rule the mortal realm, O goddess of water Flutrain, O god of fire Leidenschaft, O goddess of wind Shitzaria, O goddess of earth Geduld, O god of life Abeglabe, hear my call and correct your mistake. I return to you the blessing I received so that a true one might be granted. The magic circle responded to his prayer, and the blessing he had once received from Rosemine appeared on his body as light. It moved into the various face stones above the foundation, causing each one to shine in turn. Ignoring the spectacle, Ferdinand picked up the memory-searching magic tool that would allow him to see straight into Rosemine's thoughts. He had intended to use them when she was conscious and well again, but no longer saw a reason to wait. He would intertwine their mana, their memories, their minds, and their lives. Once the tools were in place, Ferdinand touched their face stones together. Mana surged and their minds synchronized. The rainbow light of the returned blessing drifted through the air, contained within the ivory walls of the foundation, and was slowly absorbed. Only when the last of the light had vanished did it rain down anew, returning entirely to Rosamund. Its faint yellow glow resembled the last blessing a certain apprentice shrine maiden bestowed upon Ferdinand, though the synchronization kept him from recognizing it. Is he also returning the blessing that she gave him back before she became a noble too? Wow, she's not going to be too happy about that. Okay, I'm guessing this is in Rosamund's point of view now. Memories. Amid the darkness, my rousing sensation was a sweet taste in my mouth. I thought that I would need to ask Grisha to prepare some mouthwash when I suddenly noticed someone call my name from afar. It repeated again and again, eventually becoming recognizable. Is that you, Ferdinand? Gods, respond quicker next time. His rush to complain seemed a little unfair. I answered the moment your voice reached me. That said, I cannot see you. Are you nearby? No matter where I turn, I appeared to be alone in the dark. Unease rose up inside of me. Be calm, he said. I used a magic tool to connect our minds and nothing more. Oh, right. You were going to do that once you finished dying my mana, so does that mean we're done? I channeled mana into you and encountered almost no resistance. The process is not yet complete, but we could say that you are almost entirely died of my mana. That was good to hear. Being died with his mana meant being free of that accursed divine power and, for all intents and purposes, getting my old mana back. I realized that the sweet taste in my mouth must have been a synchronization potion. Oh! Interesting. So he's going to... At first, I thought he was going to share his memories, as in his memories from his past when he was younger. That's what I thought it was saying, but then I kind of read a little ahead, and it's not. Rosamund, I shall now share with you my memories about those dearest to you. We can hope only that it spurs you to remember them on your own. They are all commoners, so they cannot simply channel mana into you. Do your best to remember who they were to you, the person you were back then, and why they meant more to you than the library of an actual goddess. You must remember them. Vernon took a stern tone as though giving me an order, but something about his voice made me think he was pleading with me. He was normally so dry and monotone that hearing the emotion in his voice made me realize his desperation. I too wanted to regain my lost memories. I swore then and there that I would, no matter the cost, and then remembered that my memory tool synchronized your emotions. The last time we used it, I relived the past with more clarity than usual, but my memories and emotions had swung Ferdinand all over the place. This time, I'm going to experience your memories and emotions, right? I asked. I am loath to do this, but yes. Oh god. This is going to be interesting. Is she going to get swung around, or is he going to get swung around once she starts remembering? I'm assuming he's going to get swung around again once she starts remembering who her parents were and everything. So, yeah, we're going to go through this again. Our emotions must already have synchronized. Reluctance, hesitation, and resignation crashed down on me like waves. Vernon really must have hated the thought of my accessing his memories. It was crude of me, but I was a little bit excited to look past his stony mask. Let us begin, he said. The black void suddenly transformed into the temple. It was like we had teleported. I could tell from the passing scenery that we were headed to the High Bishop's chambers. Ferdinand was so much taller than me that it was actually refreshing to see things from his perspective. I went to look over there, I said. Despite my best attempts to turn my head, I was restricted to seeing whatever Ferdinand was looking at. No, you are experiencing this memory as I once did. Oh, so you're not going to get to see anything else. Standing in front of the door was a gray priest I didn't recognize. Arno requested that we be allowed through, and so it wasn't long before we were in the presence of the pot-bellied former high bishop. I'd once seen him as a gentle old grandpa, but now I could see the nasty glint in his eye. I don't like Bez and Wants, but seeing him like this is pretty nostalgic, I mused aloud. Oh, hey, there's me! A younger version of me, wearing the uniform of a Gilberta Company apprentice, entered the room with a man and woman I didn't recognize. I was so short, I barely even reaching Ferdinand's hips. He could have covered my face with his sleeves without even needing to raise his arms. Holy heck, I was so tiny, I exclaimed. Is this really how I used to look at you? Wow, did you ever worry about accidentally stepping on me? Oh, Rosemine. How is that your first question? Good grief, stop fixating on your height and pay more attention to the pair who entered with you. They are your parents. Your father Gunter works as a soldier and guarded you in Haas. Your mother Eva is your personal dyer, whom you granted the title of Renaissance. It suddenly occurred to me just how little I remembered about the lower city. I recalled the business deals and contracts I had made with Benno and Mark, but almost nothing about my family or actually living there. Those are my real parents? I doubted Ferdinand was lying to me, but why would he lie at this point? He's trying to help you regain your memories. He's not going to lie. But I couldn't believe it. I didn't have any memories to make it feel genuine. The pair stood protectively in front of me, facing down Besenwas as he demanded they hand me over. I refused, the man said. Mine won't be able to survive here as a servant. That's right, the woman added. Even without the devouring, mine is very weak and sickly. She's the kind of child who collapses twice during a baptism ceremony and ends up bedridden for days with a fever. She wouldn't last in the temple. The blood drained from my face as I braced for the worst. They were only commoners who... Why had they dared to oppose the High Bishop? Did they want to be executed? I took in a deep breath. Just as expected, Besenwas was furious that mere commoners were defying him. He invited several more Grey Priests into the room and ordered them to capture me, saying that he'd execute anyone who tried to intervene. I suspected that was how I'd ended up in the temple. My supposed parents had done their best but ultimately conceded. Or so I thought. Yeah, that didn't happen. In response to the High Bishop's threat, the man declared that he would go to any length to protect me, then started pushing and kicking the Grey Priests away. His sudden outburst shocked me so much that I took a nervous step back. It mattered not whether they were the High Bishop or a noble from another duchy. Your father took on anyone who might put his precious daughter at risk, Ferdinand said, his voice reverberating through my head. Can you imagine my surprise when I first met your family? Truth be told, I wasn't sure how to respond. I was used to Ferdinand keeping his emotions hidden, but here he was wearing them on his sleeve. His voice was tinged with both envy and nostalgia. I eventually said. I'm surprised as well. He has no sense of self-preservation, does he? More reason to believe he is your father, Ferdinand chuckled. I can see what inspired you to keep fighting for me, even when everyone else told you to give up. To charge into Ahrensbach with the Knights of Dunkelfelder at your heels. I thought seeing a person go ballistic would terrify anyone, but Ferdinand seemed to perceive it as a profound act of compassion. He was shocked to see two people disregard status to protect their daughter, but also deeply approved of their actions. So there are parents out there who would quite literally fight to protect their children. A separate scene overtook my vision, allowing me to glimpse another man and woman. This must be the guise of time's guidance, said the man with a somewhat troubled expression. I thought he resembled an older, kinder-looking Sylvester. Wait, is this Ferdinand's memories? I suppose Gluckletat has his trials for us all, added the woman. She had feathery blonde hair and a gentle face. And those two are... I was gazing up at them, which means I must have been looking through the eyes of a young Ferdinand. She can see his memories now! It lasted only a moment before we were back in the temple, but I couldn't just pretend it hadn't happened. Was that man the previous Ehrenfest, I asked? Focus on what is before you. We are here to recover your memories, Ferdinand replied, clearly dodging the question. You were just like Gunter, unable to merely sit by when those you cared about were in danger. I don't know about that, I protested. I think I've sat by on many an occasion. You're about to find out you're wrong. As if on cue, the young me started crushing the former High Bishop. My eyes kept changing colors as if an iridescent film covered them, and a thin yellow mist appeared to radiate from my body. I was outraged and doing everything I could to protect my apparent parents. You're the one who's being ridiculous. Don't you dare touch my mom and dad. Mom and dad? The words echoed in my mind. I used to say them all the time. An intense wave of nostalgia washed over me and made my chest ache. But even then, my memories felt distant. Come on, you can do it. Even as I watched my supposed parents challenge the High Bishop for my sake and the young me rampage for them, I couldn't understand my own emotions. Resorting to violence made no sense. It would surely have been better for everyone if they just conceded and allowed the temple to take me. It was much easier to empathize with Ferdinand's feelings about the whole incident. He was moved to see me fight for my family despite being so tiny, but also anxious that I was committing a crime I would never be able to recover from. I still can't remember them, I said. I used to have a mom and dad. I understand that much. But the rest is still a mystery to me. It was so frustrating that I could almost cry. No matter how much I wanted to remember these people, my mind refused to cooperate. Perhaps I should show you someone else, Ferdinand replied. In an instant, our surroundings transformed into the high priest's room. I was used to these chambers, but the furniture was positioned in a way I didn't recognize. We were seated around a table with Ralph's parents on our right, Mark and Benno on our left, and a blonde boy I didn't recognize across from me. This is Let's. This is when they were trying to figure out, the whole adoption thing. What are we looking at, I asked. Do you remember all those present? Everyone except the boy in front of us. Siggy recognized Mark and Benno. Indeed I did. I remember selling them plant paper and asking them to prepare the tools I needed to make more. His name is Lutz, Ferdinand replied. His parents are sitting to our right. I saw them only as Ralph's parents. I guess that means Lutz was important to me? Yes, he made paper when you could not, worked at Benno's store, brought the orphans from the orphanage, the temples of the forest, and spread printing throughout Ehrenfest as a Gutenberg. He was your arms and legs within the printing industry, someone who, in your eyes, was equivalent to family. Equivalent to family? Watch, Ferdinand said, indicating Deed, who was clumsily searching for the right words. You stood up for Lutz when he ran away from home, fed up that his parents were keeping him from following his dreams. Your wish at the time was to resolve his family's problems. Had that proven futile, it was your backup plan for Benno to adopt him. Why are you here, I asked. It was bizarre to see Ferdinand involved in the problems of a commoner family. You were the orphanage director, but you were still too young to permit Lutz's adoption. I agreed to provide my name in your stead. It was purely business. So he said, but I sensed something deeper. His experience with Mine's family had made him want to learn more about commoner relationships in general. As the discussion proceeded, Ferdinand intently watched Carla. Indeed, Lutz's parents spoke crudely and were largely unmannered, but it was clear to everyone just how much they loved their son. Well, to everyone except Lutz. Ferdinand envied the boy for being cherished so dearly, but also felt exasperated that anyone could remain so obtuse. Still, Ferdinand directed the conversation in such a way that Lutz's parents could properly explain themselves. It was thanks to him that as the meeting advanced, Lutz went from being tense to completely at ease. As I told you the other day, after thinking about Lutz's abilities and my future plans for opening stores, I concluded that I would like to raise Lutz into my successor, Benno said. From there, the conversation turned to the potential adoption. Deed was very openly opposed to the idea. Well, of course, I was his son. You're good at running a business, and I'd bet you're a skilled merchant, he said. You've even got the heart to forgive all the trouble Lutz has given you, but you wouldn't be a good father. Ferdinand was taken aback by the appraisal. He suddenly seemed more on guard against Benno and developed an even greater interest in the familial nature of commoners. Please explain why you think he would not be a good father. Does Benno have a bad reputation or something of the sort? Deed then turned to Benno. No matter how good at your job you are, you're trying to adopt a kid, not for his sake, but for your business. Nobody like that would be a good father. Parents can't think about everything as pluses and minuses. Am I wrong? Benno wasn't the only one who found that shocking. Ferdinand all but gasped in response. In his head, a man repeated two short phrases. The guise of time's guidance and for the sake of the duchy. I didn't recognize the voice, but I could guess from the resignation Ferdinand was feeling it must have been the previous Ob Ehrenfest. Is that to say the previous Ob wasn't a good dad to Ferdinand? I mean, he outright said they only took Ferdinand out of the Adolphus villa because it benefited Ehrenfest. Nobody noticed Ferdinand's pause as he tried to steady his breathing. We were all too focused on Deed and Benno's exchange, and Lutz's tearful murmurs when he finally accepted just how much his parents cared about him. Come on, we're going home, you brat. Lutz grinned as the father gave him a light chop on the head, and once again Ferdinand watched on in envy. In his eyes, their relationship was as dazzling as a sun. A commoner boy had enjoyed since birth a certain warmth that Ferdinand would never get to experience. Oh, I feel so bad for Ferdinand. My heart ached. I'd once said to Ferdinand that the previous Ob had taken him in at a necessity and that Sylvester and I needed him in much the same way. In hindsight, that must have been the last thing he had wanted to hear. His value or whatever doesn't matter to me. I care about him unconditionally. Does he know that? Yes? But the way you've been acting lately kind of says the opposite. Or not really the opposite. It's like, I guess, muted. I guess. Exhausted, Ferdinand washed his attendants, cleaned the room. He then recalled the commoner girl sitting beside him and gazed down at Mine, who was still clutching the sound-blocking magic tool, as instructed. It appears their family will do just fine, Ferdinand said to her. As I recall, resolving the problem and returning Lutz home was your ideal solution. She replied, it's perfect. And then Mine started weeping with joy. It was unsightly to laugh and cry so openly. Ferdinand warned her to stop, that she was acting like a slave to her emotions, but she simply replied that she was too delighted. Lutz, I'm so glad things worked out. Ferdinand gazed down at her. Despite not being directly involved, Mine seemed to feel all the same emotions as Lutz. I could sense how genuinely curious Ferdinand was as she felt so strongly about someone who wasn't even related to her by blood. Technically, they are! If I remember correctly, like, their parents are like cousins. It's like distant cousins or something? I wonder what I would need to do for... Rosemont, do you remember Lutz? Ah! My eyes widened and my mind went blank. I couldn't even remember what Ferdinand was thinking. Sorry, come again? I asked if you remember Lutz. No, I don't, but I must have cared about him deeply to have shed tears of pure joy. More than that, though, I now understood that Ferdinand was deeply fixated on family and parents. I was less curious about Lutz, whom I couldn't even remember, and more interested in probing Ferdinand now that our emotions were synchronized. Saying that he was like family to me must have meant more to him than I'd ever realized. I continued, perhaps because I still don't remember this Lutz person, I'm unable to empathize with the mind we see here. Do you not remember him at all? Ferdinand asked. Not even now that you've seen his face and heard him speak. Not at all. Before, when I saw these people who were meant to be my parents, it felt like I had nearly connected to something, but with Lutz, I don't feel anything in particular. I noticed a surge of shock and concern within Ferdinand. On the one hand, he was irritated that Lutz matters that much to her. On the other, he was still desperately racking his brain for memories that might help me remember. I probably shouldn't admit that I was too focused on Ferdinand to think about anything else. Oh my god. Especially when he's going to the trouble of showing me my memories with Lutz. Perhaps we could try memories of your dream world, Ferdinand said. You might find those easier to connect with. I thought that was unnecessary. Any memories as Arano were already intact. But he must have proposed it for a reason. I decided to humor him, wanting to know how the other world might impact his emotional state. It's my living room. This takes me back. We had gone from the High Priest's chambers to my home back on Earth, somewhere I would never be able to return to, no matter how much I desired it. Since we're here, how about we seek out some books, I said. Let's check my room. You never took me there, so there are no relevant memories we can visit. What a huge blunder! First the library, or bookstores from before will do. Or fine, the library or bookstores from before will do. Just take me somewhere with books. I refused. Mine? Are you stupid? He's trying to help you and all you think about is books. This is what your problem is to begin with. It's the whole reason you can't remember your parents or Lutz or I don't know who and Thule. Because they were more important to you than books. I was aching to return to all the books of my Arano days. Ferdinand, meanwhile, was glad that we didn't have access to my room, as he thought letting me read was a waste of time. His cruelty knew no bounds. Completely ignoring my invitation to go somewhere with books, Ferdinand approached a shelf decorated with arts and crafts and pointed at one item in particular. This was the basis of the lace hairpins you wear, was it not? I recall your explanation. It is, but wow, I'm surprised you remember it this well, considering that you saw it only once. The details of that conversation were a blur to me, but Ferdinand evidently remembered them all. It must have had something to do with the way our brains were wired. I was mulling the thought when Ferdinand tensed up a little. It was strange having such direct access to his emotions. I was so used to having to watch for the slightest twitch of his brow. Ferdinand, is something wrong? Do you remember who made the first hairpin you sold to Benno? Do you remember for whom it was made? Huh? I dug through my memories while he patiently awaited my answer. I remembered introducing hairpins as a new product when our production of paper started to settle down. The guildmaster had wanted a new hairpin for Freda's baptism, and the sheer amount of money I'd made had seemed absurd at the time. My first hairpin, I'm really not sure why I made it. No, I replied. To my knowledge, it was for Thule. My hairpin craftswoman, I seldom have opportunities to see her, but I was present when she delivered one of your new hairpins. Our surroundings changed again. We were at the orphanage director's chambers this time for a reason that I promptly recognized. This was when I received Lady Eglatine's hairpin, I said. Do you recall then the reason you are glaring at me with such displeasure? I don't think I would, even if my memories returned. As he said, the Rosemont in his memories looked guarded and completely disgruntled. Ferdinand, in turn, was displeased to see her frowning at him when he was taking time out of his insanely busy schedule to check up on an order for the royal family. He vented those frustrations by reaching out and pinching her cheeks until she had tears in her eyes, revealing his immature side. He really was lashing out. That is Thule, Ferdinand said, indicating a girl with braided green hair. I could sense his anxiety about how the other Rosemont would react to seeing her. She had just woken up from a bereave, and 2 whole years had passed since their last meeting. Seeing that she was more tense than usual, he kept one hand on his hip so he could pull out a face on the moment her emotions burst forth and she lost control of her bonnet. Rosemine locked eyes with Tuli. A slight smile rose on her lips, and the tension seemed to drain from her body. I could see the love and compassion in the young craftswoman's blue eyes, the same love and compassion I'd seen from my supposed parents. I remember dang it. I remember that warmth. I have humbly brought a hairpin for you as well, Lady Rosemine. Tuli had made a spring hairpin for me during my 2-year slumber. Rosemine smiled as warmly as if she'd just seen a book and asked for some assistance in putting it on. For a moment, Tuli gazed cautiously at Ferdinand. Then she removed the hairpin Rosemine was wearing and tenderly replaced it with a new one. Her hands were so kind and gentle as she inserted the hair ornament into my hair and neatened the last few errant strands. Does it suit me? Rosemine asked. I made it to suit you, Lady Rosemine. It looks perfect. Rosemine and Tuli exchanged a look, then smiled. I could tell from their expressions how much they treasured the brief moment they were getting to spend together. I don't want this to end! A single thought wandered through my mind, though I couldn't tell whether it belonged to Ferdinand or me. He was as taken with the scene playing out before us as I was. It pulled at his heartstrings to see Rosemine keep trying to reach out to her loved ones from whom she was separated, and to see her family do everything they could to close the distance between them. It wasn't his fault. Our hands had unfortunately been tied, but he was overwhelmed with regret for having torn me from them and allowing me to lose 2 years of my life. That wasn't your fault. You did what you could. His remorse feels so extreme, like there's an immense, immovable weight on his conscience. I never expected him to feel so guilty. I wanted to tell him to relax and that he hadn't done anything wrong. But I paused. As it stood, I didn't have the whole picture. I could think only of all the times he'd saved me. I wondered if my opinion would change when I regained access to the memories of those people whom he claimed were my family members. So I swallowed my words of consolation and said something else instead. Ferdinand, do you remember why I made my first hairpin? Benno told me you made it for the sake of your older sister, Tuli. Your entire family created it together to celebrate her baptism ceremony. As if on cue, our surroundings changed and we were taken back to the high priest's chambers. Mark and Benno were looking straight at us. How is this? Benno asked, opening a box containing the hairpin I'd worn for my noble baptism. As requested, we used the finest thread we had access to. Hairpins of the style were first introduced when a child made one for her elderly sister's baptism and then sold the design to her by store. We think it would be perfect for celebrating Lady Rosemine's baptism ceremony. Oh? Ferdinand, too, considered it an ideal present for me, as I was studying so hard to become a proper noble. He was right, of course. Dang it. Because I remembered crying when I'd received it. I just couldn't remember why I cried. Benno continued. Tuli, who has experience making hairpins for apprentice shrine maidens, worked with her mother to weave the thread while her father carved a stick out of wood. Lady Rosemine will surely be overjoyed to receive it. He gave Ferdinand the same unfaltering smile he wore when he was certain of his victory. In the blink of an eye, Benno vanished and we were back in my old living room. Do you remember, Ferdinand asked? How you made the hairpin, I mean? Given your single-minded obsession with books, I assume you grew tired of creating such ornaments such as quickly as you gave up on embroidery. It always concerns me when you launch into a new endeavor on a whim, as your parents and older sister must have been anxious when you proposed your hairpins. Or perhaps they gleefully cooperated from the very beginning. They are your family, after all. A vague memory arose in the back of my mind. I asked someone for yarn and then saw my hands start crocheting with a precisely carved crochet hook. I sensed people around me, though they appeared only as vague shapes. They did, or at least I think they did. I could see someone touching the finished petals, though I can't make out their identity. Someone complimented my work and called it amazing. But who? Ferdinand must have found that promising because hope suddenly swelled in his chest. You must be thinking of your family. His eyes turned into a basket sitting nearby. Perhaps you were wove together as well? My mom from my Arano days had always rushed to start new projects and then lost interest partway through, leaving me to finish them all on my own. Those figures from my commoner days, however, must have worked alongside me. I grasped at whatever fragments I could, desperately trying to remember them. Ink, hide glue, rinsham, candles, soap. You could never have made all those things on your own. Who nursed you back to health each time you caught a fever? Who supported you when you were too sick to go outside? You must remember the lectures you received from those who were worried about you. Several voices echoed through my mind. Come on, Mine. Would you please sit still? Mine, what are you doing? Come on, let's go. I recognized the voices but couldn't put names to them. They continued to speak over each other, and their clamor became so intense that my head started to ache. They were so mad and so worried I couldn't help out at all since I was so sickly and weak, but that's why they were always there for me. My eyes grew hot and tears blurred my vision. I could tell those memories were precious to me, and yet I can't remember ever caring for them. Isn't that heartless? Books are my entire world. The only thing I care about Oh my god, here we go. The only thing I care about more is, well, you, Ferdinand. Wow, this is going to be interesting, see? Yes, because I'm the only one who has channeled mana into you since Mestinora severed your memories. Your love for your family runs deep enough to drown an ocean. I could feel a storm of emotions stirring within Ferdinand. Elation, resignation, sorrow, and a wish for me to regain my lost memories as soon as I could. His anxiety made me feel anxious too. Ferdinand continued, it was only when I synchronized with you and peered into your memories that I encountered the sort of compassion you have for your family. It was unlike anything I felt for Sylvester or our father. If anyone is heartless, I am. Your emotions are too strong and sincere for the term to apply to you. We were suddenly transported to my dining table where my mom was eating in front of me. I could see freshly cooked rice, matto, miso soup, teriyaki yellowtail, baked potatoes, mixed vegetables, and various pickled goods. It was the same feast Ferdinand saw when he peered into my memories. Despite never having eaten these dishes, I am still nostalgic for them, Ferdinand mused. Do they remind you of your own mom's cooking? No, I mean because I synchronize with you. I am more nostalgic for the meals you devised in Ehrenfest, as I discovered while you stuck in Ahrensbach. Was that really a compliment? Now that we were linked, I could sense that he was just glad to eat food that definitely hadn't been poisoned. I thought he was a genuine gourmand, a lover of tasty meals, but his true standards were shockingly low. Considering how his life has been, I can't blame it for being a little low on the expectations. Ferdinand, what kind of life must you have lived to consider unpoisoned food a luxury? You don't want to know. The meal in front of us changed from Japanese food to something that resembled roast beef. Ferdinand started to choke, desperately fighting back the urge to vomit, and the pain he was experiencing shot through me as well. A woman with blonde hair, cold green eyes, and a cruel smile simply looked on. She brought to mind an older Detlinde, so I'm guessing that was Veronica. Full Ferdinand spat. The woman vanished, and we returned to sitting with my mom. Choose your words carefully, lest you see too much. Memories of that nature will only obstruct you from remembering your family. I could guess from the hatred swirling within him that the scene I just witnessed had once been an everyday occurrence for him. I imagine that woman was Veronica, I said. You might not agree, but I think that memory was worth seeing, even if only for a moment. That glimpse of your past makes me realize just how fortunate I was. Yes, that is correct, Ferdinand replied at length. You truly were cherished and raised with love. My mom from my Arano days loved me. I could see it in her eyes. My heart pulsed with joy as I thought about all the care and consideration I'd received growing up. Because I was seeing these memories through Ferdinand, who had witnessed it while peering into my mind, I sensed the uncertainty that had washed over him upon seeing a mother who openly and unconditionally cared about her child. I, meanwhile, had felt regret, remorse, nostalgia, and love. Indeed, of all my discordant emotions, love reigned supreme. I thought about my family on Earth, who I would never see again, and the family I was spending time with, and a single thought appeared in my mind. I really do love them all. Ferdinand, I can't remember my family from before, but I think my feelings for them are coming back. They really are precious to me. I adore them all so much, but I just don't know them. We were so close to a breakthrough. I could see their faces, hear their voices, and even repeat their names, but I couldn't access my lost memories. What the freak is it? What's going to keep her from doing it? A thin membrane stopped me from remembering my time spent with those I cared about. I didn't take them for granted, right? I asked. Please tell me I showed everyone how much I cared about them. Ferdinand, Winston, Penn, and our environment changed once again. We're back in the High Priest chambers. Father and Sylvester are here, but when is this? Oh, I think this is when you do the blessing. As I tried to figure it out, Arno announced the arrival of some visitors. Ferdinand said the usual greeting for guests, at which point Fran led my family into the room. My dad and Tuli were holding hands, and my mom carried a baby in a sling. Mine! Tuli pulled away from Dad. Oh, we're gonna get to see this sad scene again! God dang! If I end up crying in this, guys, I'm sorry. Tuli pulled away from Dad and with a dazzling smile ran over to mine, who was wearing the robes of an apprentice blue shrine maiden. She threw her arms around the old me, then pulled away and started checking that I wasn't hurt. It came so naturally to her that I could guess she had done it all the time. Dad was super hurt and came to get us with a scary look on his face. He even said Mom had to bring Camille to the temple, so I was really scared something had happened to you, mine. I'm so glad you're safe. Tuli sounded genuinely relieved that her younger sister was okay. Her love for me was resonating with mine for her, and a broad smile spread across my face. Ferdinand, in contrast, was overcome with grief as he watched us. That he had even found a way to spare mine's family was a cause for celebration. Few commoners survived opposing a noble. But it meant severing Mind's connection to her family much earlier than he had anticipated. She could no longer wait until she turned 10 and needed to enroll at the Royal Academy. It was a cause of great concern for Ferdinand, who had come to cherish their relationship after hearing so many enviable, heartwarming reports from Daniel and Fran. Mind's parents understood the situation and promptly knelt, their expressions racked with anguish. Tully was told to kneel as well. She looked around and quickly did as instructed. Ferdinand could see Mind's face fall as she realized she wasn't kneeling with them. The room was cleared and silence fell. Sylvester was openly reluctant but wore his best archducal expression as he permitted those kneeling to sit down. Going forward, they would discuss Mind becoming a noble and getting adopted. "Is this my fault?" Tully cried. "You were attacked because I came to get you, right?" Mind shook her head. "The culprit was inside the temple all along, so I would have been attacked even if you hadn't come to get me. If this is anyone's fault, it's mine for getting you all wrapped up in this." She paused, then gazed straight into her sister's eyes and said, "It was scary, wasn't it?" Mind did all she could to explain the situation, trying her best to console Tully. She stressed that she had to become a noble to spare her family and attendants. "But you are not to blame, Mind. We ended up in this situation because I could not keep my attendants under control." Yeah, Arno caused part of the situation, and if he had told Ferdinand from the start what was going on, maybe this might not have happened. I could hear what Ferdinand was thinking. He was watching with gritted teeth as Mind tried to comfort Tully, who had cast her eyes down and started to sob. If only Arno had properly informed him of Fran's message or Besenwant's arrival, he could have prevented the incident before it spiraled out of control. This is not what I planned. Ferdinand wrestled with shame and regret while Mind attempted to reassure each member of her family. He was moved by the strength of their bonds and distraught that he had to be the one to tear them apart. "I promise I'll make your clothes no matter what. I love you, Tully. I'm so proud to have an older sister like you." "Don't push yourself too hard," her mom said. "I love you, Mind, my precious Mind." "I love you too, Mom." Mind then took Camille in her arms. "I don't think you'll remember me, but I'll make lots of picture books for you. Be sure to read them all for me, okay?" Her last heart-to-heart was with her dad. "Oh, I hate this! Why do we gotta go through this painful memory? I guess it makes sense. Maybe this is what will get her to get her memories back." Hang on, let me make... never mind. "I'm your father, but I wasn't strong enough," he said in a low voice. "I couldn't protect you." "No, Dad, you protected me my whole life. If I ever get married, I hope it'll be to someone strong who can keep me safe just like you have. If whoever marries you can't protect you, I'll beat him up as well." I don't think that was in the dang book. That wasn't in that part, I don't think. If it was, I'm sorry. I probably missed it or did. I don't know. "I know you'll always be there for me, Dad." "I take and never give," I muttered, unable to bear what I was seeing. Even when my family showered me with love, I showed them so little appreciation in return, I could probably have started crying if not for the fact that I was stuck in a memory and physically unable to. I wanted to regain my lost memories. I needed to. I couldn't stand the thought of not remembering the people who were clearly so important to me. "My name's gonna change, and I can't call you Dad anymore, but I'll always be your daughter. I'll protect the city and you and everyone I will." Mind's ring shone. Her emotions stirred, and her mana started to run rampant. Ferdinand clutched his staff and rose to his feet, determined to keep her from accidentally harming her family. He warned her to be careful, but she refused. "My mana is overflowing because of my love for my family. I have to use it for their sake. Here we go." Mind's ring shone brighter as she thrust both arms up into the air. "O mighty King and Queen of the endless skies, O God of darkness and Goddess of light, O mighty Eternal Five who rule the mortal realm, O Goddess of water flute train, O God of fire Leidenschaft, O Goddess of wind Shutzaria, O Goddess of earth Geduld, O God of life Evaglade, hear my prayers and grant me your blessings." Each name Mind spoke caused a yellow glow to radiate from her ring. Damn it. Where's my ring? Where's my thing? There we go. From her ring, the lights of a blessing began to dance through the air, made purely through prayer and without the aid of a magic circle or divine sigils. This is too great of a burden for her body to bear. Ferdinand debated whether he should intervene. Meanwhile, Mind continued to petition the gods, letting her mana stream out freely. "I offer you my heart, my prayers, my gratitude, and ask for your holy protection. Grant those I love the power to strive toward their goals, the power to deflect malice, the power to heal their pain, and the power to endure trials and tribulations." The lights swirled around the room. A manifestation of Mind's love for her family was so stunning that it rendered Ferdinand speechless. I, too, was enraptured. "Eek! Rosemud, are you okay?" The moment the blessing rained down, my memories returned to me, starting from when I first awoke him with a fever. Mooyah! She got her memory back! Yes! I guess that blessing, the memory of that blessing, quote-unquote, is what helped. The days, I guess you could say she got blessed by the blessing, and that's what helped it. The days I'd spent with my loved ones, the time Lutz had asked me whether I truly was mine, the joy of completing our first batch of paper, and the excitement of creating a printing press. Only now did it occur to me just how much Mestinora had severed. That's a lot. As my memories continued to return, I came to realize the truth of my situation. I'd ended up forgetting not just the people I cared about most, but also the times my negative emotions had taken control. I remember the starving orphans locked away in the orphanage's basement, being held at knife point by Shigikoza, almost dying to a trombe, and my panda bus getting bound with light before I was made to drink a strange potion. My thoughts then wandered to Eglantine and Anastasia's, forcing me to circle the academy shrines, the door that had refused to open, and stopped me from obtaining the Grusha. Seeing Ferdinand collapse when he was poisoned, the man who had turned into a face stone upon dying, or the men. Oh no, her face stones, fuck! Oh no, I wish she hadn't remembered that one. Why couldn't that one have stayed away? Rose mine? Rose mine! Ferdinand's voice echoed in my ears. He already sounded angry and would get even angrier the longer I remained silent, yet I couldn't bear to respond right away. Give me a moment. I needed my head to stop spinning. I nervously opened my eyes to look at Ferdinand and saw that his face was mere inches from mine. Well, yeah, the synchronization tool. His eyebrows were drawn in a deep frown, but he relaxed the moment he saw I was okay. He held me close and muttered, "Thank goodness," under his breath. Wait. Is this really him? It can't be right. He must have broken or something. He must have broken or something. Yeah, kind of, You broke him. Not intentionally, but, his worry about you and everything, all that came to a head. I remained completely still, clueless as to what was happening. And, yep, knew that was coming. Okay, everybody, that's gonna do for this one. I will have to wait and see what happens next, and I will see you all in the next video.